Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday morning series. It's a special edition, and Rebecca is here today. And her topic is talking about time, move into future of flow and or freedom and flow. And so I'm going to invite Rebecca to tell a little bit about herself and this whole concept. And then, if you do have slides to share, you are co-host, so you are welcome to do
Right.
so. But we're so glad you're here. I'm grateful that we are making this happen.
Yes, thank you very much for coordinating it all, Tammy. I appreciate it. So glad to be here. So my name is Rebecca Hogg. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas. I'm also licensed in Florida telehealth. Um, and I am in the Dallas area and grew up in Florida, but I'm here now and have lived here since 2006. So I'm enjoying it. The semblance of seasons that I get. We get snow like once a year, and I'm good with that, especially from Florida. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. Um, yeah, I have personal experiences with betrayal, and even though we're not going to go into details today, I love sharing the lessons that I have learned from those experiences, and that is what my book is about, and the coaching program that I have is about. Not only specific to betrayal from a partner, but there's betrayal that we experience in all kinds of life. And so I think giving that name to things can be really helpful to identify what that is. It can be institutional betrayal, um, lots of different things where we haven't, yeah. So sorry, I have all these thoughts that come in my head, and I'm like, okay, slow down, Rebecca. So let me share my screen. All right, so I'm going to do this and let me know if you see it clearly on your end, like the whole
I
slide.
do. Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Let's make sure. So before we start, I wanted to present this quote. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. And that is quite a large quote. So just kind of notice that as you're hearing that, reading that, what comes up for you. And you don't have to share it in the chat if you want to, you're welcome to. But it just might be for yourself.
The chat
Separately,
feature, I should have said, the chat
oh,
feature on
yes.
webinars is not enabled, so they'd have to put it in the Q&A,
Okay.
and you are welcome to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And this is a separate question. In the chat, again, if you feel comfortable, um, think of something that you used to do as a child that you haven't done in a while, because that's going to come up kind of throughout what we're going to be talking about today. Something that you used to love to do as a child that you haven't done in a while. So, anything coming up for you, Tammy? I'm going to call you out with that.
No, it was like first thought was ride my bike. I used to
Mm,
love riding my bike as a kid, and
hmm.
and I don't anymore. And I know some of the reasons. It's like, as a kid, I was young and no helmets and all of that, and it was just freedom. And now it's like
Yes.
you have to worry about all the crazy drivers that aren't paying attention and wear helmets, etc. So there's a
Hmm.
part of the reason, but I mean, like I had this vision of like, yeah, I mean, I felt free on my bicycle. So
Yes. When you said that, it clicked some memories for me. So I'm assuming that's true for others as well. I used to have like this little Polly Pockets. I don't. Some people
oh,
don't know what those are, but they're like little tiny things. And on road trips, it was perfect because it was small and you get to play with it. So,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, I used to love riding my bike and all of that. So, all right. Can I see what if anybody put anything, or can you see if
Oh,
anybody
let
put
me
anything?
quick check. Thanks for so I'm swim, play in the pool, walk around
Mm-hmm.
barefoot inside and out, seeing my friends more often and play games with them, climbing trees, monkey bars, jungle gym, ride horses. So all of those were different responses. Those are great. So
Yeah. Okay. Keep those in mind because a lot of times with trauma, a lot of oh, a lot of things halt in our life, and we may be able to incorporate some of that can help us to heal. Let's see. I have my notes over here too, in case there's anything I wanted to share. Um, Also, just want to say, even though this is, no one's on screen, it still takes a lot of courage to show up, because you're getting this information. Something I say inadvertently could cause a trigger. Obviously don't want that. I'm trying to be very trauma sensitive, but that stuff may come up. So please take care of whatever you need. If you need to step away, if you need to mute it, go on a little walk, stretch your body. All of that is really important. So yeah, it takes a lot of courage to show up and basically say to yourself, even if somebody made you come today, made you show up, that you're here. So own whatever that is for you. Try not to feel like you're drinking from a water hose, fire hydrant, but just take away one or two things that you can utilize today, this week, and the rest will come as it needs to. All right, let's. Okay. So trauma lives in the body and in our mind, which our mind is part of the body, and it helps to shape time. So we're not going to go into like nervous system stuff here. Yes, go ahead.
So I apologize, I missed one. What do you do if you didn't have a childhood that had any fun stuff? Going back to the question about what did you used to do as a child?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
And that is a tough question, and it's an honest one. I think some of the things we talk about today will spark that, but the first thought that I want to share is, well, two actually. One, that is definitely not how it should have gone. So if no one has ever said this to you, like, I am sorry that that is what your childhood was like, because childhood is supposed to be free and fun, right? Like the title of the book, like move into a future of freedom and flow. So know that you can do those things for yourself now. And one of the things that I love about my job is helping people heal in this present moment and heal things from the past to create a new future. Because when you heal the things now, belief systems, what's happening in the body, like how it's stored there, that changes the entire trajectory of your future. So if you think about like an airplane, the pilots, I know there's like autopilots and a lot of things set automatically, but that, or a boat, if you change your course even like a tiny degree difference, you can either completely go and arrive at your target, or you can completely miss it. And it's just a very tiny hair, but over time, that tiny degree makes a big difference. So every little thing that we do does matter, and it builds on that. So I hope that's helpful. I know it's a broad answer.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you're exactly right, and it's hard to think of a tiny little thing making such a difference, but I know that analogy with, with if you start out in Los Angeles and you're heading to New York and you're a degree off, you're not going to end up
Yes.
in New York.
Yeah, pretty important. Keep them coming, guys. Keep the questions coming. All right. So yes, trauma is not just in the thoughts, but it is very much in the body and the nervous system. So that is why a lot of somatic therapies, body-based therapies you'll see them more on social media or articles that are talking about that. Because if you think about, before we have words to explain how we feel, it's our bodies that are being communicated with, so you see a baby laughing, right? And sometimes their laugh is so contagious. You're like, I don't know why they're laughing, but I'm just going to be laughing with them. And that can be a form of play that we do, like to help heal our inner child. So we're not going into all of that now, but those are really important. So remember that trauma does get held in our bodies. So a lot of times talk therapies won't be as pivotal or as helpful in healing from traumas, because the trauma is experienced. And that means that the therapy needs to be experienced also. So trauma distorts how we can experience time. It keeps us very much trapped in the past and or the future, worrying about it, replaying it, all of those things. And a lot of times that is just automatic. Like we can try to, people will say like, oh, well, don't think about that. Like that's not how that works with trauma. So somebody likened it to a soul wound. And I recently heard that, and that resonated with me. I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but it's like a core part of who we are can feel like it got attacked. And so when you think about it like that, the vulnerability of that, like an actual attack in um, a city, different things like that, it levels, right? You see it after natural disasters, things like that, man-made tragedies as well, that it levels the town. And so it takes some time to rebuild. So be gentle to yourself, not trying to rush it, not all or nothing either. Um, so we don't want to be trapped in the past. We don't want to be trapped in future. And sometimes we don't really want to be trapped in the here and now. And yet it is in the here and now that can be really helpful to move us where we want to go. So noticing those little things that we'll talk about.
So somebody just made a
Um,
comment on that. Yes, for me, it feels like it rotted my soul. I have been saying this marriage is soul
mm,
rotting.
those are some deep, powerful words. Yeah. And when we can have words to explain how we feel, then sometimes we can have that relief, even though it doesn't change everything, right? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that is what my experience is. And so in that way, yes, talking through it is a very important aspect. We need to have support system where we can talk through and process things. And there's other things as well. So yeah, soul rot. Anybody else? Anything else
Well,
on there?
yeah, there was the going back to the childhood. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things as a child. Maybe that person whose childhood lacked enjoyable activities can look back at what they wanted to do but couldn't. And I was
Mm,
thinking, it might be,
very
yes, what you
wise.
saw friends doing or, kids at school or whatever. But yeah, like, or even as an adult, having the opportunity to look at what kids do and go, I didn't get to do that and I would have liked to. So.
Yes. I've had a client look up what parents should have done at different stages, and we did EMDR, a type of therapy with that. But you could do a visualization, obviously, like be wise about what may be too overwhelming for you, but you could visualize yourself receiving that from your ideal caregiver or things like that. So I've done that with clients where they've researched on their own. I didn't even suggest it. So that's a wisdom right there, an inner wisdom that you have. And it doesn't change the facts, objective facts, but it can change the subjective experience of how you are remembering it now. And it honestly, like if you think about, and this is the type of work that I love to do, of we can heal the past in the present. So we have different ages of ourselves internally in some ways, right? We can feel very stuck emotionally at a certain age, depending on the situation that happened. We can be stunted or underdeveloped in different ways. And so then being able to go back and heal that age of ourself, can you imagine? Like you're changing that age that's inside in the moment, but it's the past, and you're changing how your future can be because now that age you is in the present in a different way. So it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and I've done that work, experienced that, and when something starts poking around at that, I immediately go to the new vision, of like
Hmm.
being able to show up for myself,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, like I'm not that little wounded kid. I'm able to show up for myself and, come alongside and it powerfully healing. So I love that work.
Good.
Somebody, one more thing, and then there's a couple of
Sure.
questions that are different, but let's. So the one is Dr. Stan Tatkin called it soul murder on his Healing Couples Heal podcast. And we love Dr. Stan's work,
Hmm.
and Dr. Rob and Dr. Stan have done
Yeah, packed.
podcasts, but soul murder, not just wounding.
There's a lot of words that I'm learning. So thank you guys for
Yes.
sharing because we are all in different parts of our healing journey and we're discovering new things and we learn from each other and we help each other heal is the idea, right? When there's a rupture, there needs to be a repair. And ideally, it's from someone who has caused the rupture. When that can't happen, then a lot of times these situations come up in our life and we have an opportunity to help heal ourselves in that within relationship. So, and again, if something is not resonating with what I'm saying, if you're noticing a high emotion come up, just take a step back, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. I need to, like, if something's causing me to feel like frustration, anger, hurt. Like, don't invalidate that, you know, take a step back and just check in with yourself. What do I need to feel safe? And that is a big part of what we need to do when we have trauma, when somebody else has trauma, if we can, like, what do you need to feel safe? And a lot of times it's in our body first, so that our mind, emotions can get on board with that too and be in alignment. Otherwise, they're separate. Another aspect that has come up as near the end of writing this book, I was talking with someone, kind of talking with someone and trying to take it deeper for myself. Because when you write a book, you know what you want to write about, kind of, but then you continue to know what you're writing about, and then you want to keep writing, and then they tell you like, okay, no more, you can't put any in there. So what came after is the phrase time shame. And when this person said that back to me about what I was describing, it clicked for me. It hit, because it does feel like that in our society. It can feel like that in our families, our friends, inadvertently, hopefully, mostly inadvertently, where, you know, it's like, oh, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? Are you having grandkids? Did you go to college? You know, like all these things. Everything is like, this is how you do it. Says who? You know, and so what
So,
I
so
needed
if
to
you're not
do.
on track with what the prescribed plans are, societal,
Mhm.
you could feel shame. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Like feeling too behind, feeling behind. I'm running out of time, or I've wasted all these years. That can come up a lot
Mm,
in betrayal trauma. Like if they didn't know anything for so long, and then they need to look back at all those years and now
mm,
put this piece of information in all of that to try to make sense of it. That's a lot of work to do.
right.
And that can be really tiring and also feel like you've wasted time.
Mm,
And what I am doing in that I've done in my personal life and still doing, because we're always learning, growing, and healing different ways of layers, is writing the book and what I did to help heal. And a lot of it is what did I like to do? What do I want to do? Because I didn't get to do a lot of that, you know. So because this is how you need to have your life, and you got to do this. And but if you look at normal developmental stages, there's all these things like Erickson's stages where you need to like work these things out and work these things out to develop mastery over things in your life. So, anything you wanted to say? I see you nodding.
Um, I love the idea of time shame. You have put words on something that I have been feeling for so long. So,
Good.
and then there are a couple questions in it, but they feel like good questions to ask after this because I'm seeing some things that you're pulling up that may be useful for answering them. So we'll just
Okay.
continue because you've got, yeah,
Great.
great. This is great information.
Okay. And so healing time helps us to reclaim our sense of time as flexible, not rigid, supportive, not unsupportive, and compassionate versus critical. And those are all super important. Like if I was to give some quick advice of what would be helpful to help heal, to, to keep in mind is curiosity about what you're feeling and compassion. It does not mean that you have to understand it in that moment. If you think about it like a small child having a temper tantrum, sometimes our inclination is like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with them? If we pause and it doesn't feel as personal, especially if it's not our kid, we could be like, I wonder what happened to them. What are they not able to verbalize or express? And that is true for ourselves. Like there's plenty of times where I'm assuming most people have watched a commercial, listened to it, heard a song, and immediately felt like tears come to their eyes or something in their body. They're like, something in you, this is what I'll tell people, something in you knows something the rest of you does not.
Mm,
And so it's important that we stop, pause, listen when we can. If we can't do it immediately, try to check back in, because it is our emotions that give us a clue to our healing. And our body is basically, there's a language that our body has, and it's not our verbal cognitive language. It is a different language that's very implicit, intuitive, abstract, and we get the opportunity to learn to listen. Other than, you know, we're hungry, we're thirsty, we're tired, it speaks so many other things. So I did want to say, ask one thing if people wanted to put this in the chat. If your body could speak about how it feels about time, like a phrase, you know, like What is it that you kind of already tell yourself? Like, I'm running out of time, or it's too late. What are some phrases that you find yourself saying?
So throw those in the Q&A and I
Yes.
will read those. But I was thinking, like, first thing I thought of is like, I have to overcome the message of like, I'm never doing enough, because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
using my time as wisely as I should. I'm not packing enough stuff in. So,
Yes.
I mean, and which is a
Guilty.
horrible message because I know it's like that's I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah, like all in caps. I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took a lot of naps. Okay.
Okay. There's another question. Okay. So keep going.
Okay. What is healing time? To me, in my work, healing happens when people connect or reconnect, maybe is a better way to say it, with time, past, present, future. And so the acronym that I have, this is not exactly it, but basically we're tending to our body, we're integrating the emotions that we have and not keeping them, exiled, pushed back, but being, discerning about how we're processing them, not too much too quickly, because that's traumatic, can be traumatic. Moving our bodies with intention. Like I don't know if you can tell, like I have this fidget in my hands and I have a standing desk. So I'm moving my body. So I'm not just like still, moving it with intention and engaging with purpose and play. So some
And
of
I
the
love
things
your
that
t-shirt in that picture too.
yes,
Yes, that is,
yes,
yeah.
it took a lot of work for me to be able to even consider wearing that, much less to be wearing it. And it doesn't mean when you love your story, it doesn't mean that you love everything about it. You love the pain, you love, um, but why I can wear it is because I can say that it's not because of what I went through of who I am. It's because of what I worked through and am working through, where I'm liking who I am. And I know that it's because of what I worked through, and didn't let that keep me down and keep me stuck and any of those things. Like, so that I could not feel like most of the time, right? I'm going to be honest, like most of the time, I can now not say what I used to say, which is like, that was all wasted time.
Mm,
Because I'm
mm,
looking at my life
yeah.
and I'm like, what do I want to do? And how can I do that that is aligned with me, and who I am and my values? Okay. One thing that we don't talk about a lot in mental health, we talk about PTSD, we talk about trauma, we talk about healing, but to put it in this phrase of post-traumatic growth has stood out to me a lot over the years. And it's because that's what we're really all wanting. So I think it's important that we name what it is that we're wanting. We're wanting to have this growth post trauma because we want to appreciate things in life. We want to have stronger, healthier relationships that are fulfilling and feel more empowered, and that, you know, those time shame phrases were not true. And one of the ways to do that, which I started with the question at the beginning, is through play. And I am a registered play therapist. And one of the best things that I learned is that play is a child's language and toys are their words. I'm going to say that again. Just notice that play is a child's language and toys are their words.
Mm.
So before they learn to speak, they learn to play, and we can heal ourselves through play. And how that works, we're not going to go into all of that, but basically the neural pathways are changing. And so you're in the present moment more, which means you're not stuck in past or future. You're in the present moment, helping to heal and say, like, now I am okay. Right now I am safe. All of those things that maybe you didn't feel for so long. And so then you're rewiring your brain, body, all the nervous system stuff. And then that helps to heal time shame because we're reconnecting to the present and creating new positive experiences.
So a couple things, comments to myself about time. I don't have enough time. I'm never going to finish this. I'm running out of time. I should have started earlier. I'll never
Mm-hmm.
be better at time management. People hate me because I'm not on time. It takes too long to do things. Lots of really negative,
Yes.
messages in that. So, and then there's a comment, that's brilliant. It's how I work through the things that happen that enables me to have a sense of pride so that I can say I love my story. Otherwise, the temptation is to feel my story was just a pile of crap.
Yeah, no, I do not. I did not want that. So if there is a little flicker of a flame in you that does that, keep fighting for that to get louder and stronger and brighter. Because it is, I think of it like we all do have a light initially, but it gets so covered over with these messages, these experiences, all of that. And so it's like, nope, we're going to work through that. If it's in the way of me experiencing life, and it doesn't mean life like only positive, but like making meaning of it. Viktor Frankl wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a survivor as a baby. Baby? No, think he was older than that, but of the Holocaust. And he wrote a
I
book.
think he was. I think he was a little older than.
Okay.
Yes, but
Yeah.
continue.
So
Yeah.
he wrote that like because he saw his loved ones die, and he's like, I am not going to let this tear me apart. I'm going, Man's Search for Meaning. That was his search, and he
Yes.
just to share with the world. So keep that in mind in case you are feeling discouraged. It is a helpful book. It can, obviously certain things can be triggering, but even if you just want to read about him, it can be really helpful. So post-traumatic growth does not deny pain, but honors the growth that can come from it. And remembering that play is not childish, even though children play, it doesn't mean it's childish. We all need to learn to play because if you look at our world, it's way too serious and stressful sometimes. And it doesn't mean that we don't need to take things seriously. But we need, when there's so much seriousness, what do we have control over? And what is something that we can do to bring a little bit of, even just a brief flicker of a smile, if that's all you can do. So it helps you feel time differently. All right.
And somebody
So,
commented, "Love that. Allows us to retain agency."
yes, I like that word. Yep. Empowerment, agency, choice. And I like this. Just engaging with play is one of the fastest ways to reconnect with yourself because it's unique to each person. Like you guys listed at the beginning, the things that you used to do. Maybe not everybody used to like to ride bikes or play board games, but you did. And that is important. And I did recently play board games. Some of them, oh yeah, actually, I don't think any of them I knew. So I was learning new games and I was like, ooh, this is fun. Like, I feel like a kid again. So why play heals? So some of this you might already know, but the impact on our nervous system, cortisol, stress hormone that can become toxic over time. It is necessary for our bodies, but it can be toxic for a long time. So it is so important that we get that energy buildup of that burned out. And that could be through sweat, tears, movement, all of that. Tight muscles, digestion is interrupted with trauma distress. It can impact sleep. So these are all things a lot of us already know about, but helpful reminders. And that play can help with all of these. So it sounds like it's actually kind of important, not just a luxury.
No, this makes me want to head to the playground. So
I love swinging on the
I
swings.
know I saw that and I was like, oh, I missed that too.
Mm-hmm. Play gently breaks trauma loops. And I like gently because who doesn't want that, right? I like this too, the micro doses of freedom. So if you think about like just little deposits, just a little bit of a degree difference. That's all, not all or nothing. And that feels a little more doable. It can also be challenging because sometimes we like, all or nothing because that's what we're used to. But we really a lot of times need to break out of that and it allows more flexibility in our whole body. And it doesn't mean flexibility allows for boundaries violated, any of those things. So yeah, offers freedom, safety, presence with yourself, with someone else if that's safe. That trauma can make us rigid. Yes. See what are the main things. Resetting our nervous system. Dance. I know lots of people, including myself, who've done art process groups or dance lessons, acting classes, improv. Improv was really good for me because you get to think on your feet and it doesn't matter if you make a mistake because it's just, fun. It's like they called it adult recess. I was like, I could get down with that.
I could too. Someone said I was bullied on the playground. I guess that is why now as an adult I'm drawn to young kids. I love playing with kids and being silly.
Yep, healing that younger child. Good. Let's see what else I wanted to say. Oh, that it recalibrates our stress cycle. So it kind of interrupts. So we can
Oh,
cycle, right? And then we just kind of get sucked into this trauma vortex, Peter Levine calls it. And we want to counter that trauma vortex so that we can not get sucked down into it. And play can help us to do that. Reconnecting with our inner self. We're not just healing symptoms, we're reconnecting with parts of ourselves. And I say we left, but maybe I could rephrase it to that were left behind to survive. And some of those parts may be playful, silly, imaginative. And getting unstuck is, again, not all or nothing, but it's we come back to something and we revisit and we heal from it, and it can be less and less triggering, because I have definitely, like, certain things have come up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Rebecca 5 years ago, 3 years ago would have responded very differently to these things. And when you start seeing that, that is just like another added momentum, um, and motivator, if you will, to keep going. Anything in the Q&A or chat?
um, trying. So these are so far these are good questions that, like, when you're done with the
Okay,
slides, these
save it.
are, yeah, they're not tying to these specific slides. So, but they're great questions. So I'm excited about those too. Okay.
Okay. Healing, to the healing power of being aware of time, which it's interesting because it's being aware of time, but in the sense of like not being aware of time. So I I am someone who has ADHD, not always, but can have time blindness, they call it. And I would tell my clients, I said, that's a gift that our society does not appreciate, meaning it's like
Mm,
not built in our society, because that time blindness can mean that you're more in the moment. But us in our society, that's like, everything is timed, right? And then there's shame around it. Then they automatically are like, I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm glad you're here. That's why I said, I'm like, we're not like doing that to ourselves. I'm glad you're here. And we can obviously talk about, like, is there ways to help that so that they can, not be beating themselves, all kinds of stuff. But when we're in the present moment, we're time aware, but we're also just in the moment. And relearning how to be more in the present moment helps us to befriend time, where then those things that you guys listed and I shared, that those don't have to stay that way. And it doesn't mean all or nothing either, where you're like, okay, I'm going to take this and now I'm going to, be this polypositive. But it just might mean shifting. Like, I have a story that I put in the book about, I was learning to train for a half marathon, but I would always say I'm not a runner. And my friend's like, hey, let's train for this thing. And I'm like, no. And so she's like, okay, we're going to start. And so then I could say, instead of I'm a runner, I was like, sometimes I go running, right? So that was my way of shifting, moving the needle to get more of that flexibility of thinking. So one of the things too is to notice when time feels like a threat. Maybe take a
mm.
step back when you're feeling that uh, sensation in your body, and then, like I had shared, invite curiosity. Okay, what is true instead, or how can time actually support me when I'm saying that it doesn't? Is that really true? Is there a way that I could look at this? And taking a step back, a literal step back and a figurative one, can really help view it differently versus like here sometimes. And that can look like pacing yourself, taking rest. I have done a 5-minute rest. I have done, 20-minute rest. And it doesn't mean I'm falling asleep. It might just mean I'm closing my eyes and just kind of tuning out that visual input.
Somebody put in, time always feels like a threat.
Mm, that's heavy. Yeah. And that, I
Hmm.
mean, it makes sense with certain things that we can experience in life. So we want that
And someone
to be
else
different.
says, I am judging myself in terms of time by consistently telling myself that I should be further along in my healing. That, I mean, and I hear
Common.
that pretty frequently. I'm sure you do too.
Hmm. Yes, very much. Because who wouldn't want to be? Sometimes I'm still like, what? Why is that bothering me still? And I'm like, oh, wait, that's a very critical thought. Okay, how do we change that? I'm like, okay, this still bothers me. Objectively, this is still bothering me. Do I have to beat myself up about it? No. So, like, what about this is bothering me? And then, like, notice what that is. I might need, to talk with someone. And then what can I do about that?
So I got to
Thinking.
share this because I've been wanting to check out the climbing gym for years, but haven't because I keep telling myself that I don't have time for that. I'm off work today, and you've helped me decide to finally go there this afternoon. Thank you. I'm the one who liked climbing trees as a kid. That is perfect.
Be
I
one little
know.
thing.
Yeah.
And when you do it, just even notice that you're focused on the product, right? Are you saying, oh, I'm gonna make it to this amount? Or are you just going there so that you can get yourself back into what you loved and like feel the harness, right? Look at it, notice what you're feeling in your body. Go up a little bit, pause. What are you feeling? Like be in the moment as you're in those moments.
Well,
That's
and
really
and
cool.
love climbing trees. Like it'd be interesting to see, like, am I having that? Am I remembering when I loved to climb trees as a
Yeah.
kid? That would be fun too. So,
A good point. Yeah. And bring your inner child kind of
oh
into
yeah,
that.
I
Like,
love it.
hey,
Yeah.
like, look at what we're doing. We're going to be climbing trees. And,
Mhm.
some of you might be like, oh my gosh, this is weird. She's mentioned an inner child, but don't knock it till you try it. And really being open to it, you might be pleasantly surprised it is actually what you're wanting. But sometimes we judge things that we don't understand, or we judge things because someone else has judged those before. And so we're taking that belief and saying as if it's ours, but just really look at that and see, like, is that something I want to believe? Or like, what is the reason I believe it? What if I didn't have to believe that and I could consider this? You're just like starting to tweak and shift it. And that goes with pacing and flexibility of thinking and stuff. Let's see if there's anything else with that.
While you're looking, I just started. This is another comment. I just started bouldering climbing a couple weeks ago, first time in 10 years. And holy moly, it was so fun. It felt like being a kid on a jungle gym. Doing this with my betraying partner in a form of parallel play, reconnection, and it has been positive for us to do together. That is awesome.
Yes. I don't work with couples, but I do know that is a very true. Like when we can play together, that builds it's part of, oh, I don't remember who it was that said it, like the polyvagal theory, I believe, where it's like the safe and social, maybe it was Peter Levine, social engagement system of our nervous system. And so when we're safe, yeah, it can definitely help to bond and it can bring up things because then you have challenges that you need to work out. But if it's in a unified play kind of way, it can be really helpful. It's cool. See, you guys already know a lot of things.
I know this. I'm loving this. Okay.
So some other micro movements out of stuckness. So it's not trying to, if you think about healing as catching up, that might keep you stuck. So thinking about it as you're moving forward from today. So I talk about in my book, like drawing, like it was the point in my life where I drew a line in the sand and I was like, no more of that. And we're going this direction. And even though I didn't really know where I was going, I knew that I needed to feel better. I wanted to feel joy and peace and these kinds of things. So anything I do needed to be about that, even if I didn't know for sure how it was going to end up. I would hear these stories of post traumatic growth. I would see these examples of people, and I'm like, well, it must be true. So what if I just tried this, or what if I did that? And it wasn't all trial and error, but experimenting with what I knew that I liked. Small daily shifts, even if it's 1 minute. Um, Asking yourself a question like, what would feel light right now? What would feel safe right now? What would help lighten my emotions? And sometimes it is like just you could do some jumping jacks. You can move your body. Like you see kids, right? They're always like they got so much energy. They're like wiggling their whole bodies, or they're jumping. And so us as adults, it's probably happened to us. But of course, there's society, but we have to like be in this box sometimes, but we have emotions. And all, if you look at the word emotion, E dash emotion, if you put it that way,
Oh.
you are, it's energy. So the E can stand for energy. So that might be a helpful way to think of every emotion has a different level or amount of energy in our bodies, right? When we're, if I'm going to use kids as an example because usually they're more free. If you're excited, that has a completely different energy than like happy, right? Or if you're like really angry, has a very different energy than if you're sad. So that energy needs to go somewhere. And if it's more of a negative, um, painful trauma energy, um, then if it doesn't get processed through our body, our emotions, tears, whatever, then it can stay stuck and cause, you know, physical things in our body. Some other things are, what does enough feel like in this moment? Sometimes if we're like all or nothing, we're just pressing forward, and when our body is clearly saying like no more. And that all can help reduce the shame that we feel regarding time and the messages that we have while still healing. So
So
basically
you're
there's
talking
small
about
doable actions.
like for a minute a day. So somebody put in, I want to blast music and dance, but I'm so tired. I want to dance again. So how do you get past
Mm,
the like I'm so tired, like I want to do that, but I'm so tired I don't even feel like I can do that. Any thoughts on that?
good question, because these are real things and they're things that came up for me. What I would recommend is notice that you have like basically these two parts, a part that wants to dance and a part that says, I'm too tired to dance. And both are true. And so, does this one always get the say, or
Mm.
does this one ever get the say? And if this one doesn't, could there be a conversation with those two parts of yourself where there's curiosity and compassion, because you as the adult kind of like mediating this, and where this one could say, I can only do it for then, 1 minute, and this part's like, takes the 1 minute and just enjoys it. Or maybe you're sitting down and you're just moving your legs to music and not the rest of your body, or you're sitting down and you just move your upper body and not the rest of your body. Like it can be paced, it can be titrated to start moving that needle.
That's super helpful. And you get the visual of like the no, I'm not going to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
the I really, really want to do this,
Yeah, like
but,
the on the
giving yourself
shoulders.
permission to do something, even for a short amount of time. So I love that. So,
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so it's not about big life changes or fixing everything, but it is about re-experiencing safety in our body and choice in the here and now, which often is not present with what caused the trauma. So when you can give yourself choice, right? This or this, because if this one is always winning, then it's almost like we're keeping ourselves stuck in that because there is no choice. But when there is a choice, then that can be helpful and feel like more empowering. And so just kind of summarizing, healing is real, it is possible, it is available, even after deep relational, and development and or developmental trauma. And so to go with the time shame, combating that, you are not behind, you are not too late. It's not a waste of time. It can be utilized. And by reconnecting with your body, experiencing more play, then you start to understand time a little bit differently, and like that you have more choice and that it doesn't have to feel like it's against you, but it can work with you. Like when we were talking about like who's getting time, right? Is this part that is tired getting all the time, or is this part also getting it?
I think one of the most powerful, I mean, like this has all been so good. But you are not behind, you are not too late. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wow, like because it's so easy to go, oh, there is no hope. There's no like I've wasted all of this time. And you're saying, no, you are exactly
Mm-hmm.
where you need to be, and you're not too late. So, I mean, hopefully that brings some lightness to people and gives a little bit of hope that, oh yeah, me too, I can do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
okay, so are you
Thank you
ready for
all.
some questions?
Yes. And this is the
Yeah, keep this on. I
This is
did
just for the end
say
if we need
somebody, yeah,
that.
feel
That's
free
coaching
to,
and book. How do I
yes.
stop
So,
share?
well, hang on, just do it for one more second so that they can grab their phones and
Okay.
pull those up. Um, so somebody said, I'm recently getting intensely back into therapeutic dance. Very nice daily live stream sessions at Taryn Tumey's the class. So I didn't even know about therapeutic dance, but I can completely appreciate that that is, helpful. Tomorrow you will be a little bit ahead compared to today. This thought has helped keep me going. So tomorrow you will
I
be
like
a little bit ahead compared to today. That's a
I'm
great,
gonna write that down.
yeah,
Tomorrow you'll be a little bit
bit
ahead.
ahead compared to today.
Nice.
I love that too. Okay, so then stop sharing, and then you can follow along with me in the questions, the Q&A, if you click on that. So the
Okay.
first one we're going to go back to is betrayed partner here, 9 months into not so great recovery, 50 years married, husband is still having times of being unfaithful and dishonest. So he's not in recovery yet. So problem is
Okay.
he says he can't remember how or why infidelities happen, even when it just happened and it was ongoing and repeated decision and action. How can this be? Yeah, and that's part of the whole cycle of addiction. But I'd love for Rebecca to, rather than focus on the whys or whatever, it's like, what can you do, what can you partner do in this moment, to feel some agency and feel better. So thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Let me just review it. I'm very visual.
Yeah,
So as
yeah.
you're um first, I mean, always I think validating is really important. I can just go straight into the like problem solving, but to validate that it's a really hard, like you said, 50 years married, um, and there's not a lot of answers. So that can be really hard. And just like Tammy was saying, what is it that you do have control over can be really helpful, not invalidating how you feel, because it makes a lot of sense, even if I don't know all the details. That what can you do that's going to help you feel safe? That is like another really helpful question. What do I need to feel safe? What do I need to feel safe right now? So it might be like getting outside. Um, any of the things that we talked about today, talking with somebody can be really helpful. Evaluating if they can, how much capacity they have, because ideally we want to like just tell someone who can hear us, but do they have the capacity? And that, because if not, sometimes that can be more harmful. So I don't want that to happen. I know there's great groups and support systems with seeking integrity you could probably do as well if you're not already in there.
Okay.
Don't give
And
up.
I just put in, yes, I put in, he's actually an excellent candidate for our residential treatment program. He's in active addiction and he's got decades of, so like,
Mm-hmm.
if recovery, doing the right things takes 2 to 5 years, you've been married 50 years, at some point investing in getting a solid foundation. And Dr. Rob also does a one-time 2-hour expert consultation. I put that information in the chat. You are welcome to do that.
Good.
So check those out. We have lots of resources, including for you, betrayed partner, the betrayed partners, online work group and healthy boundaries and things like that, because you have somebody who is, still in addiction. So the next one, I feel anxiety in my body for sure. I understand feeling dysregulated, and I have learned how to leave situations or a conversation or breathing helps through it helps. I have never done EMDR or any body work like that. How does this type of work help? What does it do in the moment? I don't understand what I can expect if I were to do this work. It's not a dumb question, so glad you asked.
No, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Easiest way to explain. So the emotion thing is probably the easiest one where when we don't when we realize that each emotion has energy, then that energy needs to get um, moved through the body. And so it helps because there's so much of it like that I want to understand, but how my brain works. And I used to be very critical of myself, like how my brain works is I know how to do a lot of therapy. And so then sometimes it takes me a while to be able to verbalize it. So I'm still working on how to explain it. There are some great resources out there. Um, I don't know how trauma sensitive it is, but human garage is really helpful to understand how to thematically release emotions, stuck emotions in the body, and understanding fascia. But basically, your any energy that you're feeling is oftentimes from an emotion, which can be from a belief, and so it helps to recognize that in the body, stay with that emotion, not try to judge it or change it. But oftentimes, what we give attention to then dissipate. There's a phrase that I have said before. Um, it doesn't really fully apply here, but this is the one that's coming to mind. Energy flows where attention goes, or something like that. So what we give our attention to, we're giving energy to, and that could be in helpful ways or not helpful ways. So, but when we're focused on how it feels in our body, it can help to shift that, because now it's being noticed, because remembering that the body is trying to communicate. And when we pause and we're noticing, sometimes it can get more intense. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's letting you know something. So you can actually ask your body, hey, I see that. It's okay to like start to calm. I'm here. We don't need to overwhelm me. So you can do that with your own body as well. And that a type of therapy that you would look for is you could do trauma informed yoga, um, somatic body based therapy, but you want them to understand trauma and be very like feel in your body if they feel like a safe person to be with your body.
I agree. I put a quick thing about EMDR, and it doesn't take the trauma away. It just, I've done EMDR, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it doesn't remove the trauma, but it's more like you see it. It's like watching TV. It isn't like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this,
Mm-hmm.
So it gets reprocessed, and how it works. I have some understanding, but I care more that it did. so
Yeah.
so it's worth trying, but again, find, qualified professionals. And there are CSAT trained and APSAT, CCPT or trained CPTT trained therapists that do EMDR as well. So you can find people that work in this arena and do that work. So okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you heal and reclaim around time when your teenage years got warped by chronic illness and are behind? And this person is saying, I'm behind in every adult milestone because of continued chronic illnesses, ADHD, and then traumas. Adult milestone is married, children, career, financial independence, buying a house.
How do you heal and reclaim around time when your teenage years got warped? Mm. Notice. So this could be obviously a very longer answer question. Um, Noticing. Well, let me rewind. Hopefully things are better now and you understand like what's happened to your body. But oftentimes what happened is that there was it could be a lot of medical gaslighting, and notice how you feel towards that teenage version of you, right? Do you have those same kind of thoughts that other people may have had, or that you internalized from other people, um, or just things like that? So notice how you feel towards your teenage self, and if there's anything that might get in the way of being curious and compassionate, working through those, and then the curiosity and compassion can help to give that clarity and internal wisdom that we all have, like kind of have that come out a little bit more to help how it would best be for you and your teenage part of you, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'm looking at these, milestones, and I'm going like, so yes, and look where you are.
Mhm.
You have made so much, you know, progress, and I don't want to do it in the typical society. "Oh, you've checked all these boxes." No, but I am hoping you can go, wow, I had all of this and chronic illness and all of these things, and yet here you
And
are,
yeah.
doing lots of things that I hope give you joy and meaning, as well. So but yeah, those messages are so, there's so many toxic messages, like we talked about earlier with like, oh, I've wasted time and I've missed, like all of those
Mm-hmm.
things, but viewing it and going, wow, here's where I am now, despite,
And
maybe in spite of all of that.
and what is your teenage part of you? What did it want to do that it didn't get to do? And is that something that even if you can't do all of it, are there pieces that you can pull out? Like if she really wanted to travel and you're not able to travel right now, getting to know someone in another country, or watching films about it or going and eating food, or like I've known somebody who went to Epcot and like visited different
Oh,
countries at
yes.
Epcot
Yeah.
because they couldn't travel internationally during some of the COVID stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
clever. So like,
Yeah.
and then you're creative with that and like giving yourself what you need from that, not all or nothing.
So, and we're going to run out of time. Do you have the opportunity to stay a little bit late?
Hmm.
Oh, good.
I believe
Okay.
so. Let me double check.
Okay. Double check. Yeah. Um,
Yes, I have 30 more minutes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we're gonna finish the questions that are posted now, and then wrap it up. But do you all know anything about traumatic stress goes on so long that your cortisol actually goes low? I have a very high TC ratio. My testosterone is slightly high, and my cortisol is very low. I know there are a few negative SEs associated with this, but I can't find much. I hear so much about cortisol, but I don't know my levels are low, and I want to understand if I need to do different things for lowering their cortisol. Is that something you're familiar with?
No, I'm glad that you know those things. And I know those are important, like, because I really do value integrative medicine or functional medicine, looking at things like that. But I don't know, I can't really speak to that, unfortunately. So if you don't, for that to that person, that is a really good question that I'm gonna see if I can find out at some point. But if you don't have an integrative or functional medicine person, that might be helpful to start with.
Yeah, yeah, that would be something I would absolutely want to explore. And and I live in the greater Phoenix area, and there are people that absolutely work on all the hormone levels and everything else.
Hmm.
There are people who are competent that can help you, and it's not just the little quickie blood test. They're really looking,
Yes.
the broader scan of things. So it would be worth checking on that, particularly if you're not feeling good. Like if there's something where you're going like, yeah, I'm not feeling great or something like that. But even if it's doing something on a cellular level, good to know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, how do you learn to play again? This is a great question. Since everything that happened, I haven't been able to play or even feel fun for years now. It
Mm,
feels exhausting even thinking about it. How do I learn to play or enjoy playing again?
good question. I am glad that you're even asking that. And I know that sounds probably really cheesy, because people say like, admitting it is the first step, in different things, but essentially it really is. Like, so you're doing the first step by like, is that it's something I can tell in your question that you want. And so you're asking how to. So that is already the how to, right? It's like considering, is it even possible? I really want to know how, if it is possible. And without knowing all the details of the situation to speak to that, I think going with that question that we had at the beginning of like, what did you used to do when you were a kid? If that, and like looking at that list and see if there's anything there that you could do. And it could be like a puzzle. So like play, oftentimes we think of like a big thing. It takes a lot of energy. It can be, but for some people, it is like a puzzle. It's like just really calming, soothing, something that they can do put together. Because sometimes that is really helpful if life feels like scattered, like puzzle pieces are everywhere. Putting the pieces literally together can be really helpful. So it might be as simple as something like that, where you're not having to expend a lot of brain power or body energy.
Well, and even going back to what you shared earlier of like, this is the no, and this is the, but I want to play.
Yeah.
And can
Yeah.
you give yourself permission, you know, for 5 minutes of play or dancing around the
Hmm.
house? Or, I mean, could there be just, giving yourself permission, for just a tiny bit, and see how you feel about that. And love puzzles, too. And, yes, you
Yeah.
think of that as as not an active thing, but yes, it's very calming to me. And making order out of things and creating a pretty picture or whatever it
Yes.
is. I really,
Coloring.
yeah. Oh,
Oh,
coloring.
that
Oh,
one
yeah,
is
I
an
forgot about that.
easy
Yeah.
one.
Oh, so
Just get a
I forgot.
coloring book.
That's a great. We have healing through art, and that's the first Friday for betrayed partners. Ying does an online
Yeah.
drop-in
Oh,
group,
that's
and it's at 7:30 on the Pacific time on Friday mornings, the first Friday of the month, and that is and and it's different than every other drop-in group that we do. But you know, bring your colors, bring your coloring books, bring your paper, bring colored pencils, whatever, you know. And she, you know, has a guided, you know, process for doing that. So yeah, and yeah,
That I would
that would be
encourage.
play, you know, that would be a
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
Okay. I have severe ADHD and time blindness, but through my betrayal, I have become completely dissociated from my life. It feels like a part of my brain is offline, asleep, dead, and I can't communicate with it. It's making this nightmare really feel like a dream. It's scary as I struggle making progress and continue to drop balls while my head's ruminating in the clouds. Can you speak to
Hmm.
that?
Yes, and that is a really good point, because it knowing if you are, in the moment or dissociating is important, because you can get it lost in like in what you're doing in a state of flow in like a healthy way and a positive way, if you will. Or you can also get in something that can look similar from the outside at least, but it's more dissociation, like you're checked out, like you're not there anymore, versus like you're not there because you're just in the moment. Um, so that one might be, I would recommend seeing someone who understands dissociation, because there are a lot of people that say they work with trauma, but they really don't understand dissociation. And so that way it's because otherwise it could be too jarring where that part, because I've had that where even during a type of therapy, it actually was EMDR, that I fell asleep twice with my therapist.
Wow.
And then she did a different type of therapy called internal family systems, which is about these
Hmm.
parts of ourselves that, like, so when I was having you talk to these parts, that was kind of from that therapy. So I had a part of me that would shut me down and cause me to sleep and be exhausted because it was too much to deal with. So once I started to break it down into parts and understand it, then it wasn't trying to like plow through and be like, just, stop dissociating. It wasn't any of that. So you want someone who understands dissociation from trauma, ideally.
Well, and thanks for sharing that. And that, I mean, like I've had some people that say that EMDR didn't work for me. And please understand, nothing works for everybody, you know, but find
Mm-hmm.
the things that do work. And I can completely understand why your body, like even with this person, it's like, oh yeah, your body's going like, you know, like this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Your
It's
mind is,
protecting you.
yeah, absolutely. It's doing its job of taking care of you,
Yes.
but it's also, you know, it's also not working, you know. So I love that you're asking the question and looking for options to help. And so please know that there are, you know, there are options.
And I did end up doing EMDR later, like, but the parts work, that internal family systems type of therapy helped me to get to do EMDR to dig in deeper.
Yes,
So
yeah, yeah.
I also offer it as a therapist. So it wasn't like it's bad. It was just
No,
that's
no,
what
no.
where
Right.
I was at.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that it did eventually work, but you needed to
Mm-hmm.
do this first. So, so
Yes.
that's another thing for me to remember when people say, "Well, it didn't work for me." Well, maybe they needed something else in order, you know, in that moment, but could
Mm-hmm.
try it again. So, being curious and open and compassionate, I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
I look forward to being able to feel a minuscule amount of joy with my betraying partner again. Right now, these pursuits are all about me finding myself without him, sadly.
Yes. Definitely understand that. And I'm glad that you're doing that for you, because no matter what happens in the relationship, I tell each client, like, I am for healthy you and ideally healthy them, and then a healthy relationship. Regardless, you have to be healthy you, whether they are or not. And that can feel very lonely and isolating, and it is worth it. And especially if you're not doing it by yourself, meaning like if he or the betraying partner um, is not on board for different whatever reason, um, being a part of a group that does get you and understand you and doing those things together can be really helpful. That way you're not alone in it.
Um, and speaking of that, a lot of places and ways to play have been tainted by my ex-husband. I cannot rock climb, boulder, golf, go to sporting events, play pool, bowling, skating. I mean, it all triggers me.
Mm, definitely understand that. I'm thinking, because that is a very common thing one of the things that has helped me and others is EMDR, but it's called EMV. It's a type of protocol in
Oh,
EMDR that can be just specific to those things, and so you can target like if there's a specific image that goes with each of those things that have been tainted, that it starts to clear those out. There's another one called EMDR 2.0 that's kind of similar to EMD, but it's different. Um, um, and so that way you can ask your EMDR therapist if you have one, or anybody can, right? Um, but regardless, if not in therapy, keep doing what you need to right now for feeling safe in yourself, and see what you can do so that you can, if I think about like getting the reps in, like what can you do that you maybe did used to enjoy when you were younger that you can add back in, and then noticing how you're feeling and feel more empowered so that maybe you can look at one of those things and see like, can I, if I'm just going to make up something, right? If the rock climbing in this certain ways are still triggering, then I won't go there. But if it's just kind of playing with different ideas, like, do I need a different setting? Do I need different material? Like some people have gotten all new beds, right? Or all new bedroom sets. So like, could you do that with some of those things? Like starting over, new bowling shoes. And I'm not saying it's, simple as that, but just kind of in case that sparks something.
yeah, and I've had people that talked about, it was empowering for them to reclaim, and they figured out,
Yes.
so you go with a girlfriend and it's and again, not making it like a trite little thing. It's like it's intentional, but it's like, I love what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I drew a line in the sand of like, not doing this anymore, and I'm not going to let, my ex-husband, and his behaviors take my fun stuff away. So how can I,
Yeah.
step into that in a different way? So again, not making it, an
Want to
easier
share
or light thing, please. Yeah.
one more thing? So what I have done to, what do you say, kind of reclaim that?
Hmm.
There was different areas of my life that felt that way, like big areas where I used to live and do things and have everyday life. So eventually I did go back to them. So just kind of keep in mind, it doesn't mean you have to do anything about it now. Again, taking away one or two things from here, not everything, but this may stick in the back of your mind. And I went back to some of these places with my empowered self or more empowered self, right? And also thinking about future me who is healed and harnessing that, like, okay, if future Rebecca is healed, what did she get to do there? And let's reverse engineer that. And so I started seeking out those things. And I went back to some of those places and I spoke to the Rebecca age that was experiencing that and told her, I see how much you fought, and I see what you struggle with. Just like speaking to her in a way that I hadn't, because everything was just like, oh my gosh, life is hard, life is terrible. And like I couldn't see anything else. But once I started healing, then I could do those things and reclaim them for myself. And it is very empowering and more enjoyable. So you
Yeah.
can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at some point, it's like, you're going like, I'm not going to let the no, always, hold me back. I'm going to, and being,
Mm-hmm.
it's all like being stuck in the past. Even the person who had, health issues as a teenager, being mired into, oh, I am the sick teenager versus like, no, look where you are now and what you're doing in spite of what you've
Mm-hmm.
endured. So,
Or yes,
okay.
and right, that they can both be true, like
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
sad
Okay.
and proud.
Yes.
Okay.
I have so much rage in my body from 2006, so almost 20 years. When I found out my husband was Googling prostitutes, threw him out for a while, and his sister took it upon herself to call me and say, "What's your problem? He took you and your son in and takes good care of
Mm-hmm.
you." I was so shocked. I didn't respond, and now this trauma is stuck in me. How do I release it?
Has a long time of trauma. So yeah, and that's so powerful how much those emotions stay in us.
Yes.
Um, not mm, I'm just no sorry, my pause is like I'm thinking about like if I was in session, like what would I say? But like that's really hard. And that should not have been said. So I want to start with that. Um, when when I'm pausing, I'm thinking about each person is different. And so sometimes our body needs a little bit of time before we're just able to release it because it might feel like too much. And then it's so used to having that, it can't do all or nothing. So it needs to be paced. The So I don't want to give like a specific recommendation aside from what I've already kind of shared of like, moving your body and shaking some of that emotion out. But something like that that is deeper roots for a long time and the heaviness of it would be ideally with someone who is a trauma informed body worker of sorts, like a yoga teacher or mental health therapist who's trained in somatic work, things like that. And again, I don't remember Human Garage how trauma informed they are, but they're really helpful in releasing trauma. But just be wise and discerning. Listen to your body. If it feels like too much, don't bypass that.
Yeah, and I was thinking, and of course his sister did that, like and again, not making it trite, but his sister, like they came from the same system, and his
That's a good
sister's
point.
going to defend him, and completely
Yeah.
inappropriate, but and he may have, encouraged her to do it. Who knows? It doesn't matter. But yes, you being stuck, 19 years later on that, your ex sister-in-law does not deserve that much attention. I'm gonna like she does like so I would invite you to really focus on like yeah that I mean what a ridiculous message so
Hmm.
and how can you
Glad you're
work
here.
on
Yeah.
yeah and working on taking ownership back of yep you had your reasons and whatever and that was an inappropriate message and I'm choosing now to move forward in a different way
Hmm.
and not be stuck with her message. Okay. um, how about those of us late in life, 60 plus with limited time left? Is there something we should prioritize with our time? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're only 60. We have guys that have come to our residential treatment program over 80, like decades more, so everybody has a finite amount of time. But yeah, please don't get stuck in the, oh, I'm over 60, you know.
Hmm.
Anyway, so yeah. So thoughts? How do you like let's just talk about how do you prioritize, you know, all of this?
I like to start with someone's values. What do you value in life? And in each category. So the last chapter of my book, I have like something that one of my therapists did with me is like spiritual, like what do I value in all these categories? Spiritual, physical, emotional, financial, existential, and you start writing them out. Like, what do you value about those, and like how is your life looking? Is it aligning with those values? If it's not, which ones are not, and which ones do you want to focus on? So then that can help you to prioritize what is important.
So then the next one, and I know that this is over the ones that we said we would do, but can play become addictive or an escape that is prioritized over other priorities?
Oh yeah. I mean, pretty much anything. Good question. Pretty much anything can become unhealthy if we allow it to.
Yes. And so if you're the addict partner, probably need to, make sure that you've got accountability and moderation, on things. If you're the betrayed partner, you probably need to lean into finding the joyful things in your life a little bit more
Hmm.
because of the hurt and pain. So but yeah, addicts, sure, oh, I deserve to go do whatever, and I deserve to, and it like it's a whole bunch of
Right.
reframing. So
Becomes
oh
exclusive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Excusing. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
did something good, so therefore I get to go do that. So yeah. Okay,
Hmm.
so last question. So many things to do, grief and mourning work, finding myself, play, finding the right therapist, EMDR, and so much.
Hmm.
And working full time and lots of kids. Any advice on how to prioritize or something that will help me not feel so overwhelmed by the amount of work? That's a
Yes.
fantastic question.
Yes, that is true. And that's why I like, and I just, to be honest, like I'm still figuring out what does that look like in a deeper way of time being an ally, right? And we're all in our different parts of our journey, like I had said. And so figuring out what that is for you is going to be different than someone else. But yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot of work, and it is work worth doing and more difficult, like you said, when you're working full time and lots of kids. So any play that you can do with the kids, if you can be in the moment when you're with them, that will probably be the biggest bang for your buck, if you will, like because you're with your kids and you're with your younger self and you're in the present moment. And so for a
Yeah.
moment, you're shifting your nervous system to not be thinking past or future, and you're just there with your kids. If you find that difficult, then noticing what about it is difficult, and allowing yourself to process that, whether it's, journaling it out through tears, on a walk, a combination of those. Yeah.
And
And
it
seeking
is.
out a support to maybe do stuff with, so
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
splitting the workload.
And I often think, does this need to be done right now?
Mm,
Do I need to do it? Like I do some
hmm
of those kind of questions, because like sometimes I'll go, oh, this is really, really important. And I'm like, no, in this moment, this is not the most important thing. So, but for partners in particular, we talk about, you have got to take care of you, put it, being regulated, being able to be present, like
Yep.
that is the most important thing. So finding the pieces, even like Rebecca said, even if it's a couple of minutes where, okay, I'm going to get grounded. I love some of the,
It adds
like
up.
the breathing. I can go 2 minutes or stick my feet on the ground and just pay attention and do like in a
Mm,
2 minute thing. i
yep.
can i can feel a shift. It isn't perfect, but it helps. And so like taking the
Yes.
two
And those
minutes
are
is
the
a
little
very good
degrees.
investment. Exactly, yes, that's a great,
All of
thank
those
you.
are little degrees to get you where you're wanting to go, even if it's slowly over time. So the all or nothing is a big thing that have worked on with myself, but also others that have really helped them find a lot of success. Is this all or nothing thinking? If yes, is this helpful? If no, then what else could be a way to think about it?
I love that. Okay. So I put Rebecca's email in the chat. You can email her. You got the QR code. If you can't remember anything else, TAMI@seekingintegrity.com, and I will point it to Rebecca. So much great information.
Thank you,
I'm so
Tammy.
grateful you were able to be here with us. And thanks to everybody for the wonderful questions and
Yes,
interaction
thank you
too.
guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.